Well, hello everybody, and welcome to lesson 25 on teaching spelling. So we're going to look specifically at what does teaching spelling actually look like and what kinds of things do you need to think about before launching into teaching English language arts. So to get us going today, to think about spelling, I want you to go to these links. They're fun. They're fun links. Go to them. Have a little bit of a laugh. Why it is important to marry a good speller. This is important to know. And English spelling challenge by a 102-year-old. It is amazing. It's an amazing clip. So just to get us thinking about spelling, stop me for a sec. Go and watch these two YouTube clips and then come on back. Eucalyptus, right? You need to know how to spell eucalyptus. Okay, so in order to teach spelling, you have to know, again, a little bit of theoretical background to it. So there's always a stage. There was always a stage theory. So basically there are 5 stages of spelling. I've put down here kind of all of the words that might describe the different stages from different sources. So the first stage is, you might see pre-reading, you might see emergent, you might see pre-communicative spelling. Basically, that's our preschool stage. Then we have pre-phonetic or semi-phonetic, which is preschool grade 1, or sorry, preschool kindergarten. Phonetic, which is K to 3. Transitional spellers, which is grade 2 to 4. And then standard, correct, or conventional spelling, grade 5 and up. So those are kind of all of the words that I think you will come up against when you are reading articles on spelling, so that you know what stage that particular article is talking about. Okay, so this was your reading from this week. If you have not done this, go to this slide share and just have a cruise through it, because it gives lots of examples, which I think will make the stages just that much easier to comprehend. So again, I'm not going to go through each of these because the slideshare actually has a lot of really great information. So if you haven't done this, stop me now and go through this, and then come on back. Okay. So just as a quick review, if you did the reading a while ago and are coming back to it now, this is what pre-reading, emergent, or pre-communicative looks like. So this is our preschool. So this is random scribbles. There's no phonemes or graphemes relation. There are no phonemes, or grapheme relationships shown here. However, this is a super important stage because they are, again, realizing that what they are actually scribbling on the page is linked to these random sounds that they are hearing, and they are seeing the importance of putting pen to paper and communicating through symbols. So this is, you always want to encourage students in this preschool stage to be doing this. It's not, it seems random to us, but this is an absolute essential stage. So if you are teaching preschool, or you have, you're taking care of preschool age children, or you have your own preschool age children, this is a super important stage to be encouraging them for writing and ultimately for spelling. Okay, so then we get into the semi-phonetic or pre-phonetic stages. And again, this is that preschool to K. There's usually some directionality to it. They use letters now to represent sounds and whole words, like here, dozen. That's pretty good. So they're starting to connect these sounds to the actual symbols that we have allocated to these sounds. And usually their important letters are missing. So here, it could be dozer, dozen, but you're missing important letters in this particular stage. So this is preschool to K. Phonetic then is, this is K to 3. So spelling is basically readable. If you teach K to 3, you will get really good at deciphering kids' spelling. And letters written are based on the sound, right? So on here, I will mess you. Actually, it's pretty close. I rile do not on it you to, oh, I do not want you to leave. There we go. I love you so much. Okay, but I hope you have a great time. There we go. I got my K to 3 deciphering skills going there. And so you can see that it, again, it's fairly readable, but they're missing particular some letters, and they're focusing more on the sounds. Okay, then we get into transitional spelling, and I think this is an important this is this is where grade 2 to 4 students are. Usually vowels are now included pretty regularly. So the wind blew so hard. So, right, we can basically read this. It's usually pretty readable, and they've got most of the words actually spelt correctly. Lots of people will say that this transitional stage, if they are basically getting the word down and the sounds down so that they can actually communicate, that this transitional spelling stage can go on, or transitional spelling concept can go on for actually a fairly long time, and that we shouldn't be so concerned about spelling everything exactly correctly. But we're going to get into that philosophy a little bit later on. But again, know that this transitional spelling is at grade 2 to 4. So if you still have kids in grade 4 who are not spelling absolutely correctly, it's okay. It's okay. And then we have basically standard or conventional, and this is grade 5 and up. Hopefully basic spelling words are under control, and there's hopefully few spelling mistakes. I've chatted to you a little bit about my sister, but my sister's a bit of a teacher geek, and she actually kept some of my writing. So this is actually my writing from grade 5. So I wrote this little dragon's adventure, and pretty decent spelling. I got a verb tense wrong in there, added an ed thing in there, but that is my standard or conventional spelling. This is this was me in grade 5. So if you have grade 5s and 6s, hopefully this is the level of spelling that you are getting. Okay, let's go into now the debate on importance of teaching spelling in schools. Hopefully you're seeing a pattern here. Basically, we have two big trains of thoughts on philosophy of spelling, of teaching spelling. Is number one, we live in a world where spelling is not an important detail, and we have technology to check and change spelling if we want, right? Like I use my spell check. I have a MacBook Pro, and it like shows me the words at the top, and I just hit those, and off we go. Or else you might be number two. Spelling is more important than ever in our world of constant written communication. And then again, there are the three categories under. If you believe that spelling is important to teach, that it should be taught in a traditional way, should be taught only in context, and should be taught as a combination. So hopefully you're seeing this philosophy. So like we did last time, let's have a go. Oh, in Collaborate, be ready to say where you are. Are you a 1 or a 2? And then we'll get into A, B, and C a little bit later on. Okay, so basically if you say that you would argue against teaching spelling in school, these could possibly be your justifications or your rationale. So basically, you would say that having to focus on spelling disrupts our natural voice when writing. So we shouldn't restrict what we actually want to communicate because we are so focused on spelling. So think about in your practicum, what happened when students came to a word they couldn't spell, and then they put their hand up to get the teacher's attention. What happens to their brain while their hand's up? It shuts off. So then they maybe sit there. So the teacher's busy. The teacher, he or she has 25 students in their class. The kid sits there for 5 minutes with their hand up. When they go back to go to their writing, they've lost their train of thought. So that's what it disrupts our natural voice. If the child could just write kind of like in that transitional spelling stage where they basically are getting the sounds and the letters down, but maybe not the correct spelling, they actually would be able to write. So that's an argument against teaching and focusing on spelling. Number 2 is proper spelling no longer signifies education. So it used to be if you spelled things incorrectly, you were not educated. It's not really a sign of being educated anymore. Number 3, focus on spelling encourages perfectionism. So sometimes focusing on spelling so much paralyzes a child to actually write. And so you have to be thinking about those kids who have that perfectionist bent. Number 4, English spelling is irrelevant in internet world. You know, we can actually communicate by writing U, Y-O-U as just U, and R, A-R-E just as R. So we live in the internet world, and we will live in the internet world for centuries, I would think. And so why are we still focusing on actually spelling A-R-A-R-E as A-R-E and not just R? Okay, number 5, again, it should be all about content and not spelling. Why are we focusing so much on spelling when we should be focusing on the ideas and the content? Number 6, it is a mistake to resist technological change. Spelling was a skill that was essential maybe 100 years ago or 50 years ago, but it's maybe not so much now. And it is a mistake, number 7, it is a mistake to resist technological change. Oh, sorry, I'm on next one. Number 7, mistaken notion of the right way. Oh, yes. I'm going to read you a quote from Sugata Mitra, who's a professor of educational technology at Newcastle University. And she says, "But we have perhaps a mistaken notion that the way in which we, which is my generation, write is the right way, and that the way in which young people write through their SMS texting language is not the right way. If there is a generation who believe that SMS language is a better way of expressing emotion than our way, then are we absolutely sure that they are making a mistake and we are not?" So again, that would be maybe this generation has it figured out. Maybe spelling Y-O-U just as a U actually makes more sense. Okay, so if you believe that why are we teaching spelling, these could be some arguments that you might use. If, however, you believe that teaching spelling there's some importance to it, then these could be your overall arguments. Basically, proficiency in spelling supports reading, and hopefully you're figuring out now that reading is super, super important to a child's schooling career and really to their life. So anything that we can do to support reading is a good thing. Number 2, accurate spelling reflects more advanced linguistic knowledge. So if you think spelling is important, you would actually say, yeah, you know what? It actually does reflect more advanced linguistic knowledge, because you can differentiate between OU and AU and ER and IR and UR. And so it does show more advanced linguistic knowledge. Number 3 is developing automaticity in spelling and decoding words, again, will support reading. So if they can come to a word and they can decode it and they know the spelling of that particular word, it supports reading, and we know reading then supports everything in school and life and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so number 4, English is complex. We've looked at phonemes before, but I'm going to bring it back now with a little bit of a light on looking at it from spelling eyes. So English is complex. 26 letters can produce 44 sounds that are represented in 250 spellings. So I am just going to, here's a link to phonological awareness and the phonemes, but I've just pulled a few out here. And I just, again, English, like our 102-year-old friend from the beginning of this lecture, English is kind of wild. It's a wild language. Okay, so let's look at number 13 here. So for example, the S sound can be represented by S, S-E, S-S, C, C-E, and S-C, as in sun, mouse, dress, city, ice, science. Wow. Wow. Let's look at number 22. The sh sound can be SH, SS, CH, TI, and CI, as in ship, mission, chef, motion, special. No wonder it's a little crazy for our kids. Let's look at number 29, just because this is super fun. The short vowel, ha, ah, ah, can be represented by O, A-U, A-W, and O-U-G-H. Hot, want, haul, draw, bought. Right? And so we get the idea. Actually, there's one more that I want to do. Number 44. The sound can be represented by U-R, I-R, E-R, E-A-R, O-R, and A-R. Okay. I made my point that I think that if you believe that teaching spelling is important, it would be because the English language is so crazy, and that if they have no idea that all of these letter combinations are linked to these sounds, they're going to come to all of these words in their reading, and it's going to be a big mess, a big mess. Okay, so let's now jump into 2A. So if you believe that spelling is important, if you believe that we need to teach spelling in a traditional manner, then you would say that these are the advantages of teaching spelling in a traditional manner. And when I say traditional manner, I'm meaning spelling lists and spelling tests. Probably you had, here are the words for the week, and you take them home, and on Friday you have the spelling test. The teacher dictates the words to you, maybe in context of a sentence, and then you get another list, and you just keep on going. So the advantages are it's systematic and consistent. Kids know the format, they know what's coming, and they know what's expected of them. Some kids thrive in that. Probably some of you thrived on spelling tests because you're like, yeah, I got this, I know what's coming. So there's definitely some advantage to that. It covers a large, new, and varied word set based on curriculum or literature for which the students are accountable, and it introduces to them new vocabulary. So if you forget as a teacher, or you're maybe not as consistent as you should be, having a traditional list that goes out every Friday will actually ensure that the students are being introduced to a large, new, and varied word set. Words given are usually in these kind of tests are usually based on phonics. So you'll have a whole test on the long E sound. So that might really help a student solidify, oh, all these words have the E sound in them. And that might help those students rather than kind of getting random words. It uses traditional study test approach that, again, students are pretty familiar with. So again, it might be a familiar format so that they are not then thrown off by a different format. Students are penalized for making mistakes, so there are consequences. So if you're like, these kids need some consequences in their life, and this is one way that you can say, if you don't study, then you get 0 or 2 out of 10 on your spelling test. There's some responsibility and consequences there. And it utilizes worksheets and home study. So then you don't have to be trying to squeeze that into really an already busy schedule. So that, if you were to say, I love traditional teaching of spelling, those could be some of your reasons why. Let's look at some disadvantages of teaching spelling in a really traditional sort of spelling test way. First of all, one set of words may not be appropriate for your strong spellers and your weak spellers. So basically, you're seeing in your practicum that if you're teaching grade 4, you probably have kids who spell at a grade 1 or 2 level, and then you have kids that probably can spell at a grade 8 or 9 level. And so having one list probably is hitting probably very few of your students' level in your class. Lists are often assigned without teaching strategies or study strategies. It's just kind of like learn these for Friday and go. So those students who have strong study skills know how to do it, and those kids who have weak study skills are going to fail the whole time. Okay, so again, they're kind of assigned without any kind of teaching behind it. Lists do not ensure that children can apply and check the words in real writing situations. So even if you put on a word like exemplify for grade 6, when they come to it in their reading, there's not a lot of research that says if they see it in a spelling test, they then will know how to apply it in their actual reading, which is ultimately what you want them to be able to do, is to be able to put it in to be able to recognize it in context of the reading. And lists are if you're using like a pre-made spelling list, they are arbitrary and they're pre-created as a standardized resource. So again, anytime we use a standardized resource, you have to know that it is standardized and it is made for masses of students and not particularly your students. Okay, let's look at teaching spelling in context. So again, some advantages of teaching spelling in context. So this is where I'll just situate in context again. This means that spelling concepts are taught only when they come up in reading or books or actual writing. So the learner must be helped to compose their own text before they're required to adhere to the conventions of written language. So this would be where they would only be focusing on spelling if they are actually using it in their writing. Okay, so the advantages will be that the message that is to be conveyed is more important than correct spelling. So in their writing, as long as they get the ideas down, the message down, that's the important part of it. It doesn't matter if they put "UR" instead of "IR." Again, this is if you believe that teaching spelling should be in context. The second one, many learners develop competency in standard spelling entirely through reading, writing, and sharing their writing. So if you believe that we teach spelling in context, we believe that skills learned outside of context are rarely transferred into writing. So teachers have found that, even though we give traditional spelling tests and they've seen these words, when they go to actually use them in their writing, they A, don't know what they mean, and they B, still can't spell them because they memorize them, and then we know what happens to memorization. It goes in, we pound it out for the test, and then we forget it in there. Okay, so by having them you develop their spelling skills in context, it builds a repertoire of spelling strategies, and they're not reliant on only just memorization in there. Okay, and the final bullet point is motivation. Hopefully should be better if they are seeing the words in context of the literature that they like. That's the key point. So they're reading a book that they like, they see a spelling word that they go, hey, I don't actually know what that word is. Hopefully their motivation is a little bit more to find out what that word is. Then they've had all those positive interactions with that. Hopefully then when they go to write, all of those positive things will inspire them to actually write that correctly in their writing. Okay, so there are disadvantages. So let's have a look at some disadvantages of teaching spelling in context. First of all, they may not learn sounding out or foundational spelling rules or concepts. So if you only teach in context, they may not ever connect, oh, that's a long E sound, and a long E sound, generally, this is the way that I spell long E sounds. They may, secondly, hang on here. Okay, I'm back. Had a little tickle down. Okay, so I was on the second one. They may become complacent or on not spelling correctly, or they may become reliant on computer spell checks, and they may never really end up grasping how to actually spell correctly. So what we might be doing is setting them up for failure in the future. So a child that goes out into the world, and the child goes, well, to their boss, who's like, okay, no, you can't send a memo out with 17 spelling mistakes in 25 words. The child may go, well, my teacher was okay with it. Remember also, I talked to you about my friend who had, 300 applications for one position, and basically spelling mistakes, they were gone, like in their cover letter. Again, are we making them complacent, and then are they going to links into the third one? Is it serving them well for the future? Will they then lose jobs? Will they not get jobs because they haven't been taught proper spelling? Okay, so that's a big one. I think that we need to think philosophically about when we're talking about spelling. Okay, so here we go. I think again, probably, and this is not necessarily all of you, but probably the majority of you will go, we need to have kind of a combination. And I think that's where probably most of your practicum teachers live, is that we need a combination of traditional, okay, here are some words that you need to know, and here are words that are in context. How can we pull these two pedagogies together and marry them so that it is the best situation for the students? So teachers should use, if you are a supporter of this philosophy, you would say teachers should use all strategies to find the most effective method for the individual student. Okay, so examples of this would be use a class-created word list that learners found difficult, so then they make the word list from their literature, and then they have sort of a traditional spelling test. You have peer-corrected pre-test of 10 to 12 words, and this is where you introduce a number of effective strategies for memorizing words. So instead of just, here's the list, go home and memorize it, you actually teach them how to figure out how to spell certain words. And maybe you combine sight words with their literature, and maybe you compose text together as a jumping off point. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do this in Collaborate. So do spend some time with this. This is going to hopefully be a little bit shorter of a lecture. I want you to spend a fair bit of time on this next part, because this is what we're going to talk about in Collaborate. As you work through the spelling centers on the next slides, note the philosophy, so which philosophy, and pros and cons behind each center. As always, I want you to link it to what you're seeing in practicum. So, if you're in a kindergarten class, how did the teacher go about teaching spelling? If you're in grade 6 class, how did the teacher go about teaching spelling? And so we're going to have a fair bit of time. So don't skip this. This is your one time to look through and figure out your own philosophy of spelling. I know, it's tempting. You're busy. Don't skip it. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to lead you through these centers of spelling, and then you're going to have a bit of a think about the philosophy of these centers. Okay, so I'm going to give you a traditional spelling test. So I want you to actually do this. Write out the words with the correct spelling. Don't look at the next slide because the spelling is there, but actually do this test and try to think of it from a student point of view. So number 1 is, okay, so you're going to actually write these out. Eliminate. We should try to eliminate the spread of this nasty little virus. Eliminate. Number 2, you can stop me. I'm just going to kind of cruise through. Number 2, is fundamentally. Fundamentally, we need to shift our mindset about how society works. Fundamentally. Number 3, monotony. We as humans are not good with monotony, where we do the same thing over and over. Monotony. Number 4, symphony. In this time, we should listen to a good symphony on CBC. Symphony. Number 5, indispensable. Good Wi-Fi is indispensable right now. Indispensable. Number 6, neighbor. Now this can be American or British or Canadian spelling. Neighbor. Put fun pictures in your window or light a candle to entertain and reassure your neighbor. Number 7, restaurant. We look forward to going to our favorite restaurant to eat when this is all over. Restaurant. And number 8, liveliest. Look for the liveliest YouTube clips to put a smile on your face. Liveliest. Liveliest. There we go. Okay, so now I want you to check your work, give yourself a little grade out of 8, and then think about the philosophy and the pros and cons of this kind of spelling. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to read you Alligator Pie. This is a poem by Dennis Lee. And what I want you to do is I want you to pick out 3 interesting words that you as a student would like to have on your spelling test. So 3 interesting words that you would like to have on your spelling test, and then 2 more words that are new to you or that you do not know how to spell. Okay, so 3 interesting words and then 2 words that are new to you or you don't know how to spell. So here is the poem. Alligator Pie by Dennis Lee. Alligator pie, alligator pie. If I don't get some, I think I'm gonna die. Give away the green grass, give away the sky, but don't give away my alligator pie. Alligator stew, alligator stew. If I don't get some, I don't know what I'll do. Give away my furry hat, give away my shoe, but don't give away my alligator stew. Alligator soup, alligator soup. If I don't get some, I think I'm gonna droop. Give away my hockey stick, give away my hoop, but don't give away my alligator soup. So 3 interesting words and then 2 that are maybe new to you. Probably as college students, none of these words are new to you, but think of like a grade 2 or 3 student. Now, philosophy, pros, cons of learning how to spell in this way. Okay, now I'm just going to explain this one to you. What I want you to do is I want you to set a timer for 2 minutes. And I want you to actually write a story about any funny experience that you've had in your life. All of you have had funny experiences. Think of an experience that made you laugh. Now, I want you to write as much as you can in 2 minutes without worrying about spelling, grammar, or complete sentences. Just write. Just write a funny story. Once you are done, go back and check any spelling that looks suspect. In non-COVID times, you could do step 4 as a peer editing exercise where a peer looks at your work. You have to set a standard, again, for peer editing. So if you were in the classroom, you could substitute number 4. Okay, so I actually want you to do that. Just write and then discuss philosophy and pros and cons. Okay, nonsense words. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read this page to you and I want you to jot down any fun words that you hear. And again, don't worry about spelling, just jot down the words. Beside each word, create a rhyming word that is nonsensical, so it shouldn't make sense. And then right beside your nonsense rhyming word, what sound makes it rhyme? So is it a long E? Is it an O? Is it a K? What is it? What makes it rhyme? Okay, so this is a page from Your Only Old Once by Dr. Seuss. In those green pastured mountains of Fata Fuzzy, everybody feels fine at 103, because the air that they breathe is potassium free. And because they chew nuts from the tut-tut-tut tree, this gives strength to their teeth, it gives length to their hair, and they live without doctors, with nary a care. Okay, so do that one, and then talk about philosophy, pros and cons. I want you now to go to this worksheet page on homophones and complete one of them. Just pick a page and actually complete one of them, and then again do pros and cons, philosophy, and then this one is a fun one. Go online, go on this website, and actually play some of the games on here. This one is called Initial Sound Games. Just have a little bit of have a good time playing this. And again, talk about philosophy, pros and cons. Okay, so in Collaborate again, we're going to spend a fair bit of time on this, so do take time to do this so that you can actually have some really good discussion with your colleagues. Awesome, hope that gives you a good romp through spelling and what it is and some pedagogical choices that you get to make. Awesome, take care.